can see the conditions for victory now.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another day one video. Stepping up onto the stage we have Elegance in Shadow Lynette, and oh man, I am pretty excited to talk about this one because not only is Anemo my favorite element, but Lynette has a very surprising amount of synergy with this element, and brings a lot to the table that I honestly did not expect in the slightest. So without further ado, let's get right into it and talk about our favorite, or well, maybe your favorite, not mine, cat girl in Genshin Impact. Sliding right over to Prince. So if you are new to the day one guide series, what we do here is that I will explain everything about the kit, in all the details, teach you any tips and tricks that you might want to watch out for when using this character, and then move on to deck building, etc., so you can play the character on your own. So let's get right into it with Prince. So I think I have a good amount of games to review, and it is only unfortunately one deck this time just because of how things came out, but regardless, I'm still happy I got to play her with so many matches, and she ended up being probably my favorite deck this time around. I also did get combined with Lyney. So let's take a look. I think I am a big fan of this match. Let's take a look. Versus Yuger. So you can see right here we have Lyney, Lynette, and Jean. Maybe a little bit of a standout. Let's speed right through this card mole so we can get right into talking about Lynette's kit and what she does. All right, so I'm gonna let the twins do their thing, and let's talk about Lynette. Oh well, maybe not. Anyway, her normal attack, just like all other characters, I usually just skip this stuff, but it doesn't do anything special. But 2 damage, cool, nothing more. Now a lot of the stuff relies on Lynette's elemental skill, and kind of the big part of her kit that I like the most. So Enigmatic Fate, 3 dice and 3 damage. The first time this skill is used this round, heal the character for 2 HP if they have no more than 8 HP. So if I go down to 8, which I will demonstrate in just a moment, I will actually heal for 2 HP when this happens. But you also apply Overwhelming Assault to said character. Overwhelming Assault, end phase, if this character has at least 6 HP, they will take 2 piercing damage and durations for 1 round. So basically what this means is that if you have more HP than you're supposed to, you're actually going to apply a debuff to yourself, and in the end phase, if that thing, if that condition is not met, you will take 2 piercing damage. Now that sounds terrible, right? Like, that sounds absolutely awful. I couldn't imagine you would ever really want to deal piercing damage to yourself, kind of like Lyney, because at least he's one and he can control it, he can heal. Lynette, what? You can't do that to yourself. But that is the part where there is much more to understand about Lynette's kit than meets the eye. And that being is that Lynette is kind of what the main game wants her to be, is that an aggro drawer. And of course you can't really do that but in the main game, because that's not just how taunts work. But in the TCG, it's an incredibly useful thing, and I will showcase that later, because what you can do is that essentially is that you can stand on Lynette and you can actually pretty much heal yourself all the time when you are lower than 8 HP. And that is kind of a big deal, because always having an elemental skill that always heals you for 2 HP, if you're below 8, that's a lot of stuff. That's basically always having like a hash browns to use. In fact, we're moving over right now to Lynette, and currently I'm going to drop 2 ambassadors for the fun, use the lower thing, and like I said right there, I just healed for 2 HP. And this is not a thing that requires me to like a limit. I can do this as much as I want the entire game. Of course there's the factor of needing to be below said HP threshold, but that's pretty normal. And now of course you can see I have the Overwing Assault status attached to myself, so I will take 2 piercing in the end phase if I don't do anything about it. But I'm actually gonna do something pretty crazy here, or maybe not, we'll see. But yeah, that is kind of the big deal about Lynette, and why I consider her to kind of be a little bit of an aggro drawer. And you can just see that she just slammed Razor into the ground. This is a Razor OTK deck, so he is not going to be doing any OTKing anytime soon. Anyway, back onto Lynette herself. So yeah, Enigmatic Fate has a surprising amount of value, and it gets more increased by her talent card, which I will cover last, because actually no, we'll do it now, because it is so important. So a Cold Blade like Shadow, 3 dice, no extra cost. And what happens when you use this card is that Lynette when you her thing is that she wants to use her skill twice in a round. Now that sounds pretty intimidating, but keep in mind that number one, not only do you get your reduced talent card cost, but you can also go buy something like fish and chips, and when you use it for the second time, you will get +2 damage. So earlier you saw me KO Razor, and now he took 5 damage, but also it is forcibly switched to the next their previous character. So previous character always means going left, next character means going right, that would be Jean, so everyone is going to go backwards. That sounds kind of like Sucrose, and not only is it like Sucrose, you also deal 5 damage with the value of Enigmatic Feint. So, you know, if you were trying to, let's say you're at 2 H, you know, you're really low H, you know, at 6 HP, I heal, and then I have a 5 damage threat sitting on field. That's a lot, guys, and you can do a lot of stuff with it, and which is why I have this deck sitting in front of me here, which I will talk about more a little bit after. But let's move on lastly to the burst, which once again is kind of putting in that part of the kit that I really didn't expect, where it is kind of about aggro draw, where, you know, you throw out your summon, it does its thing. That's cool, I guess. We're actually gonna pause here because I think I actually no, it continues. All right, anyway, so just do Anemo damage, whatever, and in the end phase it'll do 1 Anemo damage to the opposing characters. However, when your active character takes damage, decrease the damage taken by 1, you know, but kind of like imitating the taunt aspect of this, and it also will absorb the element that they've been hit by. So let's say I get hit with Hydro, which might happen here, who knows. If I get hit with Hydro, I will actually convert my summon to Hydro, so you can steal people's elements. It's like Dehya, who I will get to one day, not today, because Dehya is a menace to society. But anyway, yeah, that is a very interesting mechanic that you can take from this, and that's why I built this deck specifically to capitalize on that. But it's a very strange thing, and I think the biggest thing, of course, is the fact that you get a little bit of damage reduction just to make sure your team survives a little longer. And the ability to absorb elements, you know, it's not the most useful thing, but you can definitely make use of it. But at the end of the day, my full analysis on Lynette is this skill. In fact, we're going to use Enigmatic Feint right here. I'm going to heal over back to 9 HP. Wow, that's pretty awesome, because, you know, even if your damage reduction with Brain Swords, it does not matter to me, because I think Lynette is about to take the KO. That's right, baby. And that's why I'm very happy to see Lynette, because kind of the big problem, you know, with 2 Anemo and sort of just the Anemo characters who are, you know, sort of supportive in nature, right? Like, you know, for example, Jean, Sucrose, you know, not Wanderer and Zhao, but they're, you know, kind of selfish. They get to do their own thing in terms of, you know, personal damage. You know, even Kazuha, for example, is that they all really lack the extra oomph to really bring them over. And Lynette, and especially with her talent card, can do this, because not only is it very safe to kind of sit on Lynette and, you know, re-heal yourself back to that break point, but you will also be able to, you know, if you play her talent card, boost yourself significantly, and that is a pretty big deal in my opinion. And the deck I ended up making, which I will talk about this later, because this is a deck select option, but Lynette I ended up making her with Lyney just because I wanted to get that double Fatui res, which you don't know, yes, she does count as Fatui res, which is really cool. Hopefully they add Fontaine resonance in the future, which, I mean, Fontaine's a tag here, but there's nothing about it, so we gotta wait for it, so too bad. Anyway, yeah, here's the deck list, and I will talk about it as we get into it. But Lyney and Lynette, and the reason I picked this deck is because, number one, you know, it's like, oh wow, well, how are you gonna get a damage boost, you know, someone like Bennett? Well, Lyney's talent, and which is a little bit of a guide here, gives him a bonus 2 damage onto his summons or himself, you know, once per round, which is going to be very useful when I'm dealing 3 pyro damage and then 5 damage skills. So let's get right into it and see what happens when I use Lynette in action. So I'm gonna hop into this match over here, and let's see what happens when I play against a little bit of stall. So we got the super tanks out here. It's gonna be a hard time to break through the shield, but I think me and my friends here will have no problem. So pseudily speaking, this is a little bit of a Lyney guide. You know, we will actually do a proper Lyney guide when I've figured out the decks that I like. He's actually the character I experimented with the most, and I really just don't have a deck that I feel realistically good with. But that talent card that I mentioned earlier is kind of the big deal, and hopefully it gets to come to play, because despite the wording, it triggers off field, and Lyney gets to summon lots and lots off field, and, you know, a 3 damage pyro summon off field, it's kind of a big deal, you know. Anyway, yeah, So let's start talking about some tips and tricks with Lynette that I've definitely watched out for. Is that, yeah, to an extent you can use her sort of as the anchor of sorts. And you know, the bonus fact that you can also swap your character, forcibly swap a character, it's nice. Just keep that in mind. You know, especially if you're using talent, you really want to be careful of that. But assuming you're not playing talent, well, there it is, speak of the devil, you can essentially use her as this sort of Anemo anchor, you know, who can keep a consistent 3 damage and kind of sit in place. So for this deck here, and as I kind of talk about it, is that I start with Lyney, and then I try to apply as much pyro as possible. My usual line is that I like to go Lyney into Lynette and drop both of the talents at once so I can get pyro swirl, and then that way everyone's affected by pyro, because that's what Lyney's talent has to do. You need to hit someone with pyro damage to get the 2 bonus damage. But anyway, you know, sometimes it is advantageous to sit on Lyney because he does get to ramp up more of his prop surplus. Anyway, oops, sorry about that. There we go. Anyway, yeah, I just kind of let Lyney do his thing, you know, whack, especially because this is a tank deck. I will have a hard time, despite, you know, I do boast about the damage in this deck. You know, nothing is going to detract from the power of Aquila Favonia, and Lucky Dogs is going to do a lot. So I'm going to go in the Lynette now. I drop my talent so I can get the first one. And I would like to mention something. This is definitely important nuance. Do not think you can equip talent after this. It's not like Ganyu. You know, based on the wording, you have to play the talent first and then use your second skill. If I did skill without talent and then drop my talent, it wouldn't count. So you need to keep that in mind when playing. Anyway, moving on. Let's continue the chain. Oh yeah, it looks like I just ran up here because that's the logical thing to do. Now I don't know if I use Lyney damage boost. Let's see if it does 3. It might do 3. Nope, it just does 1. I already used my damage boost earlier. So moving on as the round keeps going. Now the question here is that we'll tie a tangent off, is that why are you picking Jean? Jean has always kind of been she is the only Anemo healer in the game right now. So you know, it is very important to have this kind of backup unit when you're fighting. You know, you're playing kind of an aggressive list, but you need a backup. So yeah, that's why I picked Jean. You know, she just does a reasonable amount of damage. She can cover that second 2 Anemo slot, and then she can also, you know, heal me if I really need it. And there we go, Enigmatic Fate. I did miss it, but look at that amount of damage with Tandoori's, and now I get to do it again, of course, with my damage boost coming from the 5 damage skill. And now Kokomi is gone, so now they're stuck in mono cryo, which is a big unfortunate, but that doesn't matter. They do have a lot of healing, so we are gonna have to find a way to break through that. Now, one thing I definitely had a bit of a difficult time with when making this deck is that, you know, you had to, it was difficult trying to make sure I could get things like the value engine outright, because, you know, I consider it to be an aggressive deck, so I would want to run things like gamblers and Tandoori's, but at the same time, you know, it does get a little difficult you know, when you get faced with something like this. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of back and forth. This is another thing that's super nice, is that, you know, Lynette does give you the Fatui Ambusher's resonance if you pair her with 2 other Fatui. Now, I haven't really seen any other Fatui combinations that seem super appealing, but Lyney and Lynette is, you know, just not only a cool combo, but since they're both Fatui, it does make a pretty big difference in helping, you know, stuff like this. And especially since Swirl is very powerful, and, you know, you can do things like this where I can now force you to overload and stuff like that. You know, applying extra auras can do a lot for you. Now, it's too bad I actually won't use the summon in this turn, but honestly, yeah, there really isn't too much to talk about Lynette, so I'm just kind of gonna focus on the match before we move on to there. Actually, there is team comps. Well, I did kind of talk about it. Realistically, oh, there goes Lyney. I really can't think of much for Lynette that, you know, outside of 2 Anemo and maybe, like, you know, like the Fatui don't really have much other synergy with her. So yeah, I really don't know where else she can kind of fit out of 2 Anemo, because the reason I'm picking 2 Anemo, by the way, is that, yeah, it's like, oh, well, why don't you run double pyro, because Lyney, you'll spread more damage. It's like, no, if anything, it's really the inverse. Lynette really does shine, I think, with the ability to fast swap, because being able to skill into skill is kind of a big deal, you know, when you're doing stuff like this. Because if I didn't have fast swap threat, then I wouldn't be able to really shove down my opponents with an effectively 8 damage shot, which is kind of a big deal. Let's see what they're doing here. They're probably dropping a normal attack. Yeah, all right. But here comes Lynette once again in all of her glory. I'm pretty sure I used some healing magic. Yep, I get to heal, and then I get my dice, and then I also heal with that. And look at how powerful that is, my friends. Going from 1 HP all the way up to 5 thanks to some food, and then of course my own self-healing. It is a very valuable skill. Chi-Chi's gonna keep doing her thing. Pretty sure once I do this though is that it is pretty much over, because now I can just skill again, and boom, GG's. And that is Lynette for you, my friends. Yeah, I am sorry if the explanation is a little choppy, but it's kind of hard to talk about a little more with Lynette, honestly, because there really isn't much outside of, you know, that ability to, you know, have a really high elemental skill that has significant value. And her burst is cool, like, you know, throw it out if you wanted to like drop a little bit of damage reduction, get some other stuff in there, but that's kind of it for Lynette. And this is the deck I just ended up making, which is, you know, really mostly focused on aggro, which I will talk about a little more. But you know, breaking news, literally as in the midst of me recording this and someone also telling me, CJR, you know, in the, you know, from the Discord server, just let me know. It's like, hey, there is this 2 Anemo list that exists, which is this but Dehya, and it's a little more of a stall variant, you know, taking full advantage of the ability to heal with both of these characters, and then Dehya to kind of get the damage reduction. So that's really interesting. You'll probably run a value engine similar to Chef Mao slash and or Tubby, and I'm mentioning this because I never got to cook with this deck. I actually did consider it, but I'm mentioning it because KevinZ just won the AAA tournament with a 5-0 record with this, so putting points on the board already. You know, this is what cooking does to the community. Just give them a few days and they're already slicing through with crazy stuff like this. Honestly, it is really nice to see stuff like this happening, you know, just as time progresses, pretty much. So yeah, give this a, you know, you can give this a try. There's a list I'll be showing you in just a moment, but also consider this. It might be interesting. And in general, mess around with Lynette. Think of her as sort of a little bit of an Anemo anchor that can still self-sustain, and then if you also run talent cards, she can really bring the hurt with that amount of damage. But anyway, that is pretty much all I have to say about Lynette, and I'll be going over now to show you the deck list. Here you go. So Lyney, Lynette, using their talent cards, you know, you gotta get the siblings together and having a little bit of funsies. But yeah, that is pretty much it from me. Thank you all so much for watching. It is Christmas. It is Christmas / holidays, so you know, enjoy your holidays for the 24th, 25th. I won't be uploading. I'm just gonna upload some old content. But anyway, I will see you guys next time. Like and subscribe, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. Goodbye.